Composers, is your website kind of just sitting there not really doing too much for your music career? Or maybe you're spending a ton of time trying to perfect the colors, the background, and showcase all the projects that you've worked on, but you're still not getting work. Whether you're trying to land gigs or just highlight your portfolio, having a clear purpose in mind when setting up your website is going to be absolutely crucial. So in this video, I'm going to show you the importance of defining your website's goal, making it attractive to potential clients, and why creating a simple value statement can directly lead to more projects. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert and I'm a composer and educator. And this is the start of a new series where I give feedback on your composer websites. This is a chance for us to kind of go over what works, what could be improved on, and hopefully get some new ideas and grow together. And if you want the chance to have your own website reviewed in a future video, it's completely free. Just sign up and fill out the application form. The link for everything is going to be in the description down below. All right, so let's start off with the goal of the website. What's the purpose? I think it's probably safe to assume that the primary goal of most composers' websites is for them to get work. So your website needs to make it perfectly clear exactly who you are, what you do, and how you can help. And probably one of the most important things that you want to keep in mind, remember, you're a musician. The core focus shouldn't be on wasting time trying to perfect or tweak every little detail on your site. You should really be focused just on the music. And what's great is that nowadays, a lot of website platforms will try their best to make it as easy as possible to get started. So I'm thinking Wix, Squarespace. One of the ones that I use personally is Podia. I like that platform the most because I think it's just simple, it's clean, and I can get a professional looking website created in minutes. Also, in terms of like the music business, I use this for everything. It's all in one: my website, my newsletter, selling templates, booking calls. So if you don't even have a website and you're looking to make that switch, you can definitely check out Podia for free using my link down below. All right, so now let's jump into our very first website. So this is David's website, and one of the things that sticks out to me is just that immediate value statement, what it is that David does for this client. So right at the top, he asks, looking for a soundtrack with a touch of magic? Let's create something you'll not soon forget. As we move on down, I love that you have a little bit about yourself, your services, what sets you apart, and let's work together, and a button for us to connect. And even further, we have the demo reel. So I love that everything is kind of compact. It's nicely together. You know, I don't have to go really anywhere to find your music. It's right there. And we also have a little video as well. So if I wanted to just press play. It's easy for me to skip around. Awesome. And David is using something called ReelCrafter, which I think is a fantastic option if you're looking for a demo reel setup. I believe it is paid, although they do have a free tier as well, which is actually what I'm using. And I really like ReelCrafter because it's just a little bit more professional than like a SoundCloud link. This is specifically meant for creating your own reel. One of the first things that kind of stuck out to me was that even though you have this value statement right at the beginning, which I love, I want to make sure that everything else, whether it's your bio, your services, what sets you apart, everything has to be in service of the client. It's great that you're telling me about, you know, you've been at this for 20 years, 15 years spent navigating technology. I would just condense that: 20 years in the creative industry. Also, the number one thing is I would put whatever sets you apart right after this top header. So instead of having that bio immediately after the header, you can say, okay, this is the value that I provide, and here's how I can do it with what sets me apart. Because also, I think that the years of experience, the proficiency that you have in music and technology, that's definitely important, but I think that clients almost expect that from a composer anyway. So rather than saying something like driven a creative journey for over 20 years, 15 years spent navigating the ever-evolving world of technology, you can say something like, with 20 years of experience, I can create soundtracks for your film, your game, whatever it may be, that emotionally connects with your audience. So you're almost combining the years of experience into how it's going to benefit the other person. And then another thing that really kind of caught my eye was that you're using two photos. One is of you playing your guitar. The other is kind of like an up top shot of the piano and I'm assuming the keyboard there, a little bit of sheet music here. I think if you want just a little bit more of a cleaner look, maybe just stick with the piano as kind of like that background image. You can always use this image here, just a little bit farther down. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, where you say what sets me apart, you talk about a touch of whimsy, right? And that directly relates to this touch of magic. So not only do I want to see this kind of just more prominent on your website, but how can your overall messaging be about magic? How can your overall messaging be about this touch of whimsy? And if I were a client, when I see something like, oh, a touch of magic or a touch of whimsy, my immediate thought is, okay, so are you specifically fantasy? Are you trying to tell me about the genre that you write for? Or is that magic more like a little bit of a spark, something special, right? How can you define what that magic is? And I think that the more that you touch on these keywords throughout your entire website, the more I think that you'll establish a brand awareness, brand identity. Not that you're like, I'm the magic guy, you know, that's not necessarily what we're going for, but think about, what does magic look like to you? What colors do you think of when you think of this whimsy? What can you incorporate just to give the website even a little bit more flair? You can start building up that brand awareness and just a little bit more personality through keywords and just more images or design choices that lean into the idea of magic. One idea could just be, you know, let's go down to your services. You offer original scores for film, animation, and games. Maybe we could reword that to include your keywords. Music composition in a variety of genres and styles. Okay, so that's telling me that the magic isn't necessarily fantasy, but maybe there's a sense of adventure to it. And then expert use of virtual instruments and live recordings. Okay, so that's great. We have 3 things that we know that you are great at. So maybe instead of just like my services, 3 bullet points, you could highlight that feature. Maybe even like directly underneath the image or directly underneath like the what sets me apart. And that could be like 3 core things that you're fantastic at. Maybe like a little image roughly the size of your photo here, and that could be dedicated to original scores for film, animation, and games. And it's maybe a photo of you sitting down at your computer, or maybe playing the lute, or something that represents original scores. In the middle, another picture, music composition in different styles and genres. And then on the right, a third picture for virtual instruments, live recordings. So maybe like a little image of a computer, your DAW, a virtual instrument. If you can somehow incorporate these 3 services with what it is that you bring together, so a touch of whimsy, crafting music, this idea of creation, magic, there's something here that is definitively you, and I would love for you to elaborate more on what that means. And then the only other thing that stuck out to me was just the contact. So it's great that you have this get in touch, maybe another photo of you. This could be where you bring in that photo of you playing the guitar, maybe. Let the musical magic begin. Yeah, I double down on magic, double down on that. I think that is at the core of this website. So the thing that stuck out was that you have an option for email, like messaging, but then you also have an option for scheduling a call through Calendly. I would say to either streamline it to just one thing, because you don't want people getting confused. Oh, am I supposed to schedule a call or should I email? What's the better choice to contact you? You know, so maybe choose one or the other, or you can have both, but be specific in who should do what. So maybe quick inquiries, quick questions, those could be specifically for email. So you put that on your website, and then you say, oh, you're looking to work, you're looking for the people that are more serious, the people that want to connect and chat with you directly. Then that can be, okay, here's the schedule. Already make that decision for them by kind of funneling out who should do what. Now, overall, I absolutely think that the website is a fantastic way to just kind of say, here is an extension of me, here's my website, let me know if you want to work together, that kind of thing. With a few tweaks here and there with like the magic, the whimsy, you'll be able to better define your own brand, and people will be able to associate with you with that more creative side. And I think that is what's going to set you apart. So next up, we have Daniel's website. Right off the bat, I think you have a great header image, and I love the clear, bold text. It's strong. I really like that it kind of overlays the image, so it adds a little bit more depth to the site. And overall, just looking at like the main page, it feels very minimalist. It feels modern and sleek. One thing I would suggest, and this is gonna kind of come up throughout the different websites that we review, I would love to see one more additional color. So for example, under purchasable music, you have this highlight of red as your title. You see a little bit of red in the logo there. You actually have a little green there too. What I would love, in addition to this black and white look, is maybe just like a single pop of a color. Maybe under Meet Your Next Composer, you could change the text color to be red, for example, assuming you want to stick with that. Or if this is like an image you made on Canva or something, and maybe you're able to overlay it, is there a way for you to do some sort of like underline in red? Or if you add like a call to action button, so like a contact me, maybe that button itself could be red. I think that could add just like a little bit of pop to the black and white minimalist that we have going on. And in general, when it comes to like branding colors, you don't want to overdo it. So like, I love the black, white, and your color of choice. I'm just saying red because I saw that before, but typically you want like your main background color. So usually this is white, maybe like a secondary color. So the color of your text, the color of maybe like headers. So that could be your blacks, your grays, something similar. And then you want the color that's going to pop, that's going to stand out. And that's going to be for all your buttons. That's going to be for anything that's highlighted, underlined, and this is going to be the thing that's consistent throughout the website. Now, let's dive into the website itself a little bit more. Just quickly going through the bio, you want to make sure that it is completely client focused. So you say that you're California located. Awesome. That's great for clients in the relative area. You write emotional, powerful orchestral music to highlight television, film, and video games, and you've worked for a bunch of different companies as well. Overall, I think that the bio itself and the credentials themselves, they're great. How can you adjust it so that you're almost literally speaking to the client on your page? So maybe underneath Meet Your Next Composer, the very next line should be about how you serve the client. And I think that this creates emotional and powerful orchestral music is probably the best next bet, because it's saying exactly what you do. I would even just say like, can write you emotional, powerful orchestral music. You want to be able to spell it out for the client as if you're already doing the job. The other thing is that as we move on down a little bit further, you say, Daniel now freelances as a video game composer while continuing television music production on the side. And his dream is to be a full-time composer for video games. I think that right there is you. I think that is the passion. I feel like, and I could be misreading this, but if your dream is to be a full-time composer for video games, put that everywhere. Make that the message, make that part of the brand. Instead of, meet your next composer, meet your next video game composer, find your next video game score. If this is the dream, if this is the outcome, full-time composer for video games, let that shine. I think it's clear that you have a ton of credits for television, and I think it shows that you have the credentials, right? You're a very credible composer, but you even say you're continuing TV music on the side. It's okay to list your credits, but then the branding, your marketing, your messaging of who you are should be all about video game composers. Your inspirations, even if you haven't necessarily worked on a project yet, can you come up with a few demo tracks that maybe highlight that? And this is where I want to see like your music front and center on your homepage. My latest video game tracks are here. Boss battles, combat and stingers, fantasy cities and towns, fantasy adventure. That should be at the very front of the page. And then going back to purchasable music, you have all of these different tracks available for anyone who wants to purchase, and a free music collection. So I feel like this is definitely like more the branding that you might want to lean into, right? Because if we go back to the main page, if TV is a side thing for you, but the dream is full-time composer for video games, highlight the video games. Let that be front and center. You know, you could put your credits maybe more down at the bottom. I would definitely love to see a call to action button here, like a contact me, let's work together. Commission requests, I actually really like that you have a little FAQ kind of section. Maybe instead of just your email, you can again put like a contact form here on this page, even though you have a contact me page already. Again, if the goal of the website is to get people to connect with you and reach out about work, you want to have a contact me button or form almost everywhere. So you'll have one here, you'll have one on the contact me page itself. So I'm even thinking like on the bottom here, it says, thanks for visiting. And actually, let me just move my camera because I am covering. Yeah, so it says thanks for visiting in the bottom corner. I don't know if that's a Squarespace thing, but if you can change that up to be like another contact form, I think you just want to really drill in the message that, yes, I'm available, please contact me. Instead of just having like a contact me page. Other than that, I think you have a very clean, beautiful website. I love the logo. I love the bold text. I love even like the subtle color underneath credits. So if you can do something like that, maybe with like a little bit more of a color underneath composer, that would be great. And instead of your music on a different page altogether, put your demo reel underneath, right? Underneath here. And then push your credits down a little bit farther. And then just out of curiosity, hire me does not bring me to a URL. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. And about doesn't bring me to a URL either. So maybe have a quick look at those, and contact me brings us to the contact page. So just keep these things in mind. How can you bring value to the client, and how can you adjust your messaging to be more about your passion to be a full-time composer for video games? Other than that, I think you're all set. Now, before we move on to the next website, if you're looking for maybe more one-to-one type guidance in your composing career, then you should definitely check out one of my clarity sessions. This is where we can hop on a video call and I'll try and give you some more personalized, actionable feedback. We'll talk about your inherent composer strengths, your music goals, and hopefully try to establish some sort of roadmap to take you farther in your career. So if you are interested, just head to the link in the description down below to book your session. Okay, so next up is Abrar's website. Right away, I absolutely love the bold text, the vibrant purple, and just like the funky background. I think this gives clients just a taste of maybe your personality, like your creative style. And I think that's a great first impression to show like, okay, yeah, you're not afraid to be bold. After your name, after your 3 roles of composer, sound designer, audio engineer, you go right into the type of music that you write. So you're narrowing down your target audience. You say exactly what you can provide to the client, your inspirations, and then you have the music right there. What I would say is I think this actually goes really far into the music where I'm not sure who you are as a composer. I would love to see somewhere a space where your face is. You know, I would love to see a picture of you, whether it be a headshot, whether it's you working at your computer, just something to be like, this is who I am, composer, sound designer, engineer. Here's a photo of me doing the thing, and here's the music that I also write. Do you want to make sure that your clients know exactly who they're reaching out to? Now, in terms of the design itself, I've always been a fan of like that static image in the background as you scroll. I think that's a really cool effect. But once we start getting to the text that moves, once we start getting to like the grid of demo SoundCloud links, especially with these images, it kind of becomes hard to distinguish imagery against an already vibrant background. So what I would say is keep that effect going for like this header for sure. And once you reach more dense wording and different images, maybe use some sort of like solid color as the background. So let's say maybe solid color for the text, maybe the background for the links, a solid color definitely for the logos, and then maybe you're back to the scrolling effect for the video again. This way it at least breaks up that scrolling effect a little bit more, and it gives the viewer a little bit more of like a structured experience as they scroll through. One thing I really want to point out is you have an incredibly strong value statement, from sci-fi action adventure to ethnic atmospheric horror music. With a wide range of instruments, genres, and styles, I can give your projects the right music music to bring them to life. I think you are super clear on the type of music that you are writing and who you're writing it for. But like we've seen with other websites, this is beneath the fold. So if we were to look at this, and if your client was never to scroll down, just right there, your statement is right there. If they never scroll down, they would not know specifically what you do. They would just know your name and that you're a composer, sound designer, and audio engineer. So what I would love to see is if you brought this statement up, or like a version of this statement, and have it be like on the right side, or, you know, maybe instead of 3 lines of your roles, you have composer dash, sound designer dash, audio engineer, and then in a slightly bigger text, your value statement. This way, if I never, ever leave or scroll down your website, I have an idea of what you do. And you could say something like, quick and easy, a version of what you already have, like from sci-fi to horror, I bring your projects to life with cinematic soundscapes. That way the person says, oh, I like that. I need that type of music. Let me scroll down a little bit more. And then you can explain, okay, this is the type of horror. This is, okay, action, adventure, sci-fi. I get a little bit more of your inspirations. And then one of the key concerns that you mentioned in your form was just like the number of songs in your portfolio. So if we were to scroll down, we have a total of 15 tracks. And I do think that 15 might be a bit overwhelming for clients. It's really important to remember that most people are probably gonna skim through, they might skip a couple of tracks. So you wanna highlight maybe the 7 or 8 of your best work, right? The tracks that represent the type of music that you like writing, the type of music that you want to be hired for. And in general, especially for a portfolio type website, quality is probably going to be best over quantity. So even if that means you have less to show, you want to highlight your best work. I also believe you mentioned like the genres are split out by colors. You know, you have your purples, then you have kind of like your reddish orange, your blues, blacks and browns, and then your greens. If you wanted to leave up the tracks that you do have, I believe SoundCloud should have like a way to almost create like a list. So if we go back to Daniel's and we go to his music, he has like almost like a playlist with that background. So if you want to do something similar where instead of like track and it takes up almost an entire page, maybe you could do like one image of like the purple background and it could be like the list of 3 tracks. Maybe you do your horror stuff. So Run, The Horror Revealed, Quiet Hill. So that way maybe you have like 3 major genres that you're really good at telling. Based on your value statement, it should be ideally sci-fi, action, adventure, and atmospheric horror, and have that be what you're showcasing. And then the other thing was just kind of consolidating your past work. So right now you have a section dedicated to composer and sound designer for Game Lab and Nightmare Fuel, and then a separate section for Black Dog and Babylon Endless Run. This is probably like minor and not the number one thing to focus on, but I think it's totally okay to just do like one section, consolidate everything, and it could be past work or clients and projects. Now that I think about it, I would even bring up maybe this one track to be like right above at the top, right? Latest project with maybe 3 SoundCloud playlist type collections underneath. That way it shows your most relevant work right at the top underneath your value statement. You have your demo reels based on genre. As you scroll down, then maybe, you know, 1, 2, Black Dog here and Babylon here, a line of work that you've worked on. And then again, I'm actually in the way, but have your contact be at the top of your site, throughout your site, not just email, but I want to see a contact form. That way you at least make it more prominent that yes, I want to be contacted for more work. But other than that, I absolutely love how bold your website is. I think it shows a lot of your personality. Just remember that for like a demo type project, quantity is not going to be as important as the quality of your work. So even if that means you have to showcase less, I think that's totally fine as long as the stuff that you are highlighting is like your best work. And now we have Arthur's website, and this is a beautiful dynamic layout that you have. You could tell that your header image was professional professionally done, or at least it looks very professional to me. Kind of like that smoky background of you playing the piano. If I were to scroll down, I love that you use phrases like discover my universes. The composer, I love your value proposition. Telling stories is my passion. Music is my language. So I'm getting the idea that like storytelling is your core brand feature. Again, the images that are scattered throughout the website, I absolutely love that. This is that scrolling effect that it's nice to have it broken up by like solid sections, but then we have a little bit of like, as we scroll, we see the image kind of static. I get an idea of the type of work that you're trying to work on, you know, director's testimonial, and then the photos. So I do like that you did include your photos, because clearly this is part of maybe like a photo shoot that you hired somebody for to get some action shots of you. And this is stuff that you definitely want to highlight across the website, but maybe not in just like one section at the bottom. You mentioned like the different colors. Does it take away from the professionalism? I actually really like the balance between red and blue, the blue light and the red light. I think that in itself is kind of definitive of like brand colors. And again, your brand is not defined by color, but if you can stick to a certain consistency, I think that makes it more appealing to your audience. I would maybe scatter this throughout the website. Use these as promotional images, maybe on Instagram and other social feeds that you have. And what I also really like about your site is that most websites offer some sort of like navigation menu. Yours, we have our homepage, we have a section for the music, the composer, projects, and contact. I actually think that some of these might be mapped to the wrong section. So if I were to click music, that brings me down to some projects, whereas I almost feel like it should be here, discover my universes, because if I were then to go to projects, it doesn't take me anywhere. If I were to go to the composer, that brings me down to the section that's titled the composer. The thing that I also noticed was that if I go to the music, again, that brings me to some projects, but I think it's meant to go to discover my universes. So what I would love to see is either discover my universes, let that be the title, or my universes. Something that connects like, okay, the music is pointing to universes and they are supposed to be the same thing. But the number one thing that I would absolutely love to see on your site is your value statement. This line right here, that should be at the top, underneath your name or underneath your role, film music composer. And then you say, telling stories is my passion, music is my language. And then maybe say, how can I help you share your story? I feel like if you do that, you make the connection to say like, telling stories is my passion. That's the thing that sets me apart. Music is the language. So that's the thing that I'm good at. That's the thing that I do. And when you ask a question like, how can I help you share your story through music or something along those lines, you make it very clear to the client that like your intention is to help them with their project through the means that you're the one doing the music. I want that to be your branding. I want that to be your messaging throughout the entire website. Maybe bring your name and your role in the center, and then have your tagline somewhere off to the side or underneath. And then a button that says, contact me, let's work together, let's tell a story. Something that just shows like, yeah, this is who I am. And the viewer doesn't have to scroll down any farther because they get a direct understanding of who you are and what you do. So that's the importance of a value statement and like a call to action right front and center. And with that said, I would actually even move this video. I would either remove it because I believe the demo reel is stuff that you show later on anyway, but also I think that the like image that YouTube picks for the thumbnail or whatever it may be, I think this kind of takes away from your main header image. I don't necessarily need the demo reel to overlap, even though it is kind of a cool depth effect. I think the most important thing is your value statement, your image that shows you, showing what you do, who you are, and the demo reel can kind of come just underneath. Now, like I mentioned with some of the other sites, the number one thing about the music that you share is that quantity is not going to be as important as the quality. You've written some really awesome tracks. I actually like that there's just like here's a little bit of the pirate universe. Here's a little bit of like the magic wizard universe. Here's a little bit of Halloween and kind of like spooky universe. Once we enter the more page, now we start having a lot more to go through, and I'm not too convinced that a potential client is gonna go and then click the more button and then go through the page, you know? So like if we can limit the number of tracks that we share, especially because this is another example of kind of like that playlist option, which is great, but now we have 6 tracks. Now we have 5 tracks plus 6 plus the 1 plus 2, you know? So you have to think like, what do you want the client to do? Do you want them to see your past work in relation to footage? Do you want them to use their imagination and not have any footage and just listen on SoundCloud or whatever, demo reel service you're using? Because to me, as just a viewer, as someone that wants to potentially hire you, do I want to see the projects or do I want to listen to the music? Is there a difference? Is there a reason why the bio is splitting between the two? So I think in terms of just like the music consolidation, one section, this is my past work, here you go. And then there were just 2 more points that I wanted to bring up. One is that I think it's totally okay to trim the bio. Remember, your bio isn't about you, it's about how you help the client. I don't think you necessarily need to add your age. That might drive people away. It might bring people in, but no need to mention the age. You could just say you're a French orchestral composer. I don't think you need to bring up your undergraduate degree, especially when I graduated. That's when I started adding like my GPA to everything, my score, my grades. I started mentioning all the degrees that I got, the clubs that I was part of, especially after graduation. I wanted people to know that I had these credentials in education. But the more I thought about it and the more I put myself out there, the less that those credentials really mattered. I had to pick and choose when I wanted to highlight or showcase my education. If you do want to reference your education, stick to, I'm currently pursuing a Master of Fine Arts. Let that be the education side of things because it's what you're actively pursuing right now. It shows that you're doing the thing, you're furthering your career development. I think that is great to have, but again, it's all about what you can do for the client. So like Hollywood style, hybrid music, a fusion of orchestral music, electronic elements. See, that kind of storytelling is more in line with like the photos that you have, the artwork that you incorporate with your music. And then the last thing that I wanted to point out was, again, in the form that you submitted, one of your concerns was professionalism. I actually think that you should bump up these director testimonials somewhere to the top of the page, somewhere in that upper range. Because honestly, having these testimonials is already a huge asset for you. People are telling you that you are professional. In both testimonials that you have, they say professionalism, efficiency, quality, and then the other one says attentive, relevance, creativity, professionalism. So you don't have to try and convince anybody that you're professional when you already have these assets of people saying, yes, he is professional to work with. You want to highlight that somewhere at the top. That's the kind of social proof that gives new potential clients kind of like that sigh of relief. Like, okay, so other people are saying that he's good. You know what? Let me work with him. Let me see if I can trust him too. I think you have a beautiful, beautiful website. Storytelling is definitely at the core of this one. Just make sure that you make the navigation process for the potential client as seamless as possible. Keep everything related to your music in one space. Make sure your bio is about the client and, really highlight those testimonials. That's what's gonna be convincing for other people. Now, I think it's super easy to try and create this perfect website, but definitely take a step back, think practically about the reason why you have the website in the first place. It's important to remember that your website isn't gonna be your brand. It's not about the colors that you use, although that's aesthetically pleasing. It's not about the special effects that you use on a website, even though that's cool for the viewer. Remember, your site is a functional tool for you. It's not gonna be the thing that gets you work. Instead, it's part of this larger picture that you're building to make yourself more discoverable. Remember, the focus should be making connections where your clients are. So that could be through social media, different forums, industry events. Don't forget, you want to keep it simple and focused, and your website should have one clear goal, and that's to have a potential client reach out to you. And if you want more personalized feedback on maybe your website or your music career, then definitely book that one-to-one clarity session. The link for that is down below, and if you want more music career advice, then you should check out these videos next. I'll see you over there, and as always, happy composing.